happy to be joined once again by the Menifee maniac, Fernando Gonzalez, who is coming off a loss this time at ACA 100 to Abubakar Vagayev. Fernando, how are you?
I'm doing good. I'm doing good. Just, I'm sitting out front of the gym real quick and then get to work in a little bit.
Yes, sir. Well, I always appreciate the time. Always great talking to you. Let's talk a little bit about this most recent fight of yours. I know it was in October, so a little bit of time has passed since you stepped inside the cage. This fight was in your opponent's hometown of Russia, and he was a very difficult opponent. We spoke before, and you compared his style to Khabib. I watched the full fight on YouTube, and it really seemed like he wanted to get this fight to the ground. And you spent the majority of the fight basically just trying to keep him off of you. He just wouldn't let the fight stay on the feet. Overall, are you disappointed with your performance, or is this just one of those things where, it just is what it is? You chalk it up to a learning lesson and just move forward?
It's a learning lesson because you got to work to get back up to your feet. But right now, see, back in the day, like if it was like Boss Rutan versus Kevin Randleman, I would have got the win. I was doing more damage from bottom. I ended up splitting him open during the fight, and he really didn't do much other than he was doing good takedowns, getting me there, but wasn't working. So for me, I walked out of there like I am now. I mean, yeah, the experience of making sure every time your body's going to get stronger and stronger when you're facing a guy like that, because you're learning how to get back up, different movements, what I could have did differently. But honestly, in my opinion, I did the most damage in the fight. So I didn't really walk out of there where it's like I lost the fight. I did the most damage. He didn't want to stand with me. But he was good at implementing his takedown and kind of keeping it in that area. But, for me, this is MMA. So even if it gets me there, that's a reason I work the ground and stuff like that. We work these things, and for me, the takedown doesn't seem, I consider it like a jab, you know what I mean? Or a jab cross. Unless you're actually doing something with that position, I don't see you really winning.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. That's kind of the way I take these fights. You're going to try to make it as impressive as you can. So get back up to your feet so that way you can get the knockout. But, I didn't walk out of there feeling like I lost the fight. I walked out of there feeling like I lost points, and that was it.
Now, this was a 3-round fight. Do you feel like if this happened to have been a 5-round fight, you would have liked your chances a little bit better, maybe wearing him down, ultimately finishing him in the later rounds?
Oh, for sure. He was gassing. He was definitely the one that was most exhausted out of both of us. But he had enough to get it to the ground. It was a different experience out there, but like I said, man, the guy was really, really tough. I knew, obviously, if you watch the Khabib fights and you watch his fights, he's tend to broken people, and he'll actually stand with guys. He didn't want to stand at all with me. But I walked out of there knowing I had more conditioning than him. Yeah, 4th and 5th round, it could have easily been a different fight. I do believe in MMA they should kind of start extending fights now, because the 3 rounds, it kind of favors certain people. If they're rangy, they're really long. They can keep good distance. It can do little things here and there. And then that 4th and 5th round, sometimes you have to be smart and fight these guys and kind of get them to wear out and then get the victory on them. But I think 3-round fights normally favor guys like that. But it is what it is. That's how we got to play it right now.
How was this weight cut going into the fight? I know your previous fight before this one, there was an issue, not your fault. You went over there and the sauna shut down, so you had to cut the rest of the weight in the tub, is what you told me. How was this weight cut? Did you feel healthy and I guess at full strength going into that fight?
I did. Yeah, I did. I felt great. Everything went, I lost my gear. All my gear got left in the airport, but I was already close to weight. I really focused on my diet and everything that for a while now, I've been sticking to that. And yeah, the one in Poland, I think they just weren't ready for fighters. and everybody was kind of using like all the towels, all the, you know what I mean? Like the sauna room had like, it was like a little square. So, I mean, when you're cutting weight, you're just trying to, you're trying to cool off, you know what I mean? To continue to sweat. So there was a shower right there and that thing got flooded. So I think the actual hotel room wasn't ready for a bunch of fighters, but you know, it happens, and they understood that, and they actually commentated on that in my favor. So I appreciate that. You know, the commentary and ACA was behind me on that, and they understood. Again, I think it was like 0.8 or something like that. So I was still close to weight anyway. But this time around, I wanted to make sure there was nothing going to happen. Even losing my luggage and all that stuff, I was close to weight, and I made 169.3. So it was an easy weight cut. They're like, you're under championship weight, so they were happy with it. But no, I mean, the only thing I would take away from the traveling is there's a lot of different things that you're going to run into, as far as like getting your baggage lost. You know, you're in a different country. You don't know what's going to happen as far as your cutting. So you just got to be smart and kind of know that these things might happen, and don't let it mess with your game plan or your head for the fight.
Sure. How was your overall experience in Russia? How did the fans treat you?
Oh man, that shit was crazy, man. It was awesome. It kind of felt like, if I was like my brother said it the best, it felt like we're the Beatles. You know what I mean? Like all the fighters were just getting mobbed. Like Jesse Taylor was out there with us. He got video of like, and this was the end of it. It wasn't even right after the fights. As soon as we walked out, like we could barely even walk. All the hallways were full of kids and fans, and everybody wanted to take a picture. Everybody wanted to get to meet us, and honestly, it felt really good as a fighter to get that experience. It's something that's definitely going to stick with me, because it puts you in a different mindset where I can be, you know, at those levels, and that type of popularity when you know, you're putting on good performances.
Mm-hmm. Now, if I remember correctly, you were on a 4-fight deal with ACA. That was your second fight for the promotion, so you still have 2 more to go. Is that correct?
Yeah, we're in negotiations. I believe we're probably going to be back in the States now. We were talking with them, but it seems more like I'm gonna come back to the States and fight in the States now. So I'm not quite sure if the contract's still good, but as far as I know, we're gonna go ahead and separate and go different ways. So for me, you know, like I said, there's a lot of things that I kind of ran into that you know, affected me in those fights. But at the last one, I felt great. The last one, I definitely kind of had already dealt with some of this stuff, so mentally it made me stronger as a fighter. And yeah, man, I don't mind traveling, but it's definitely gotta be worth it. You know, I think that's kind of where we're at right now. I'm coming back to the States to fight in the States just because, you know, it's not really worth traveling that far if you're not getting paid what we agreed upon.
Yeah, and 3 of your last 4 fights have been in Russia, England, and Poland. So you've been all over the world. You've been jet setting out there, man. It must be nice to be able to stay home in the country that you live in and get ready to fight maybe closer to home, right?
Well, I mean, yeah, definitely closer to home. You know, you know, I put a shout out, you know, because I was just watching the Bellator fights, and they're shooting contracts out into the into the arena saying that it's for MVP and for Dylan Dennis. I'm like, well, I definitely would love a rematch. So if you're giving out a contract to fight the guy, I don't care if it's for one fight, I'll take it. You know what I mean? I feel like there's unsettled business between us. I thought I won the fight, and I honestly feel only one judge got it right that night. It was a split, and you know, I think he deep down inside, he knows that it needs to be a rematch. He asked me for a rematch when we were in the cage. So when you don't go out there, and he's normally known for finishing fights, He didn't finish me at all. He was completely running for me that third round. So, like I said, I'm down to fight the guy and get myself back in there, and I know I can beat him again. So if he wants it, I'm down to go.
Yeah.
And I've already proven. Sorry, I've already proven I can go to England. So I'll go and fight you at your hometown. I don't care.
That is very true. It's interesting, talking about that fight with MVP. As you mentioned, it was a split decision, very, very close fight. For my money, I thought you won the fight. And for Bellator's perspective, a lot of people felt like he was like their golden boy, their up and coming star. People were comparing him to Anderson Silva in some regards about how flashy he was and how good he looked on the feet. And then he goes out and gets knocked out by Douglas Lima. Do you feel like Lima exposed him a little bit and maybe showed some holes in his game?
Definitely. I mean, honestly, I thought he lost the Paul Daly fight as well. Daly kind of came out doing the game plan that I had, where it's kind of stay on the fence line, so it forces him to commit, and then you can counter him. He's got a lot of reach and movement. He moves well, so the more you give him space in the middle, he can kind of dance around you. So I mean, and it's been implemented. Same with Woodley versus Thompson. Darren Till kind of takes the same approach of the way that I fought him, where the first round I stayed on that cage, made him have to fight me. And we really didn't. He just kind of wiggled a lot, and then they kind of gave him points for that. And so that was kind of the beginning. And then the rest of the game plan was to stay in front of him and make him fight. It's one of the techniques that Boss Rutan uses. And, he does like videos of how to train and stuff with strikers. You're basically, if he moves back, you move forward with him, and then that's how you learn how to. If he's moving back, you move forward, you commit with him. So it's a tactic of footwork to learn how to close distance or to keep distance. So when I fought MVP, especially the second and third round, I kept that same distance where I was just at the end of his punch, but I was forcing him to actually fight me. Most guys just run in on him and they just run into his punch, they get knocked out, and it's over. It's like this last fight, he just threw a blind kick and got caught with the overhand. So it doesn't make sense to kick low on a guy that punches like MVP. During my fight, they were commentating about I kept throwing this left high kick and I kept missing. And I commentated before where it's like, if I tell you to come and reach and touch my shoulder, touch my chin, you can walk in and go ahead and touch. But as soon as I start swinging a baseball bat at your head, you're not going to walk in so easily. He's known, obviously, he fights with his hands down, and he's known to throw that right hand. He's always knocking people out with that right hand from the hip. So what I was doing, I was throwing high kicks at his head. Then he didn't throw that right hand no more. So it took that tool away from him. And even though they're missed ball, whatever, I kept throwing that kick and it was missing. It kept him away from throwing that punch. So, the later rounds completely was running from me in that third. They stopped it, said, hey, get to work, or I don't know what he was going to do, but maybe take a point from him. But, it played out the way it did. He asked me for a rematch, and I know he knows that he lost that fight, but I'm down to fight him. If they honestly say they need somebody, I want that fight. Make it a 5-rounder. I'll fight him in England, and we'll get it done.
How does a second fight with you and MVP end? Do you finish him, or does this go to the judges?
Honestly, I think one of us get finished. I don't think any one of us were comfortable with the fact that none of us got the win. And honestly, like, one of the biggest things that I had with Bellator in that time was I was trying to take a fight. I was scheduled to fight him in England, and they were saying I had trouble with my visa. But I didn't, but it is what it was. He ended up fighting Santos, short notice, and then he wanted to take a break. So that extended me to 9 months. 9 months, you're still going to be, if you're a fighter, anything that's after 6 months, you're going to be a little hesitant. Dominic Cruz might conflict with me and be like, no, the ring rust doesn't happen, but it does. It might not happen to everybody the same, but it does happen, and And you can actually even see it in one of his fights. When he came back, he wasn't the same movement and same connections that he was doing. But it happens, you know. And I thought that first round was me kind of adjusting and letting myself come back to that feeling. You know what I mean? When you're fighting and you're back in the zone. So the second and third round were definitely my rounds. That first round, I would have gave it to him a little more, but he still didn't land anything. He was kind of wiggling around, and they were talking him up and gave him the first round by talking about him.
Fernando, if you could say one thing to Rich from Bellator, or Scott, or whoever it may be, or any of the other owners of big-time promotions out there that may be watching this, that are thinking about signing you to a deal, what would it be?
You know, honestly, with them, I would tell them, I'm sorry, because I put myself in the position by not being close to weight for me to not, you know, to have these little conflicts with them, because I've never really had a problem with them other than me not making the weight, and they had that issue with me, you know. So honestly, as a fighter and as you grow and all this other stuff comes into your head, you're kind of in the moment, and it's easy to point the finger at somebody else. So I'll take responsibility for that. But I definitely would have proven that I can make the weight now. I'm on point, and I just want to get back in there and get to work. And whoever it is, it doesn't matter. They're just gonna get great fights out of me from here on out. And man, I'm happy to. I'm happy to still be training and still be able to do what I love to do, and hopefully I get to keep showcasing the things I'm working on.
Fernando, always a pleasure talking to you, my friend. We'll stay in touch as we always do. Make sure to get you back on whenever that next fight does get signed to break that one down and talk about what's next for you.
Awesome, brother. Yeah, thank you for the time. And like I said, man, I'm trained, so as soon as something comes up, I'll let you know. And I'm ready to get to work. So actually, my trainer's here. I gotta get going anyway.
All right, brother. Well, listen, have a good session. We'll talk again soon.
Right on, brother. Thanks.